back at it again, building those reading skills with our big brain energy. Y'all, we are such amazing readers that we take the time to really deeply understand the text. And one of the strategies that we use to do that is our close reading, right? And we know that close reading stands for closely examine the text, look for text features, observe the main idea, seek supporting details, and then explain the text as we are reading. And one thing that we can do as we are closely examining the text and we are pre-reading is really thinking about the genre of the text. Knowing the genre or the type of text that it is going to help us to understand how we need to approach reading it. How I read a fiction text and how I read a nonfiction text are not going to be the same thing because they have completely different elements inside of them. They are written differently. They have different characteristics that make those two genres very unique. So last time we talked about how we could approach reading a fiction text and how we can identify that, right? This time we are going to talk about nonfiction text. All right, y'all, so we already know, just because we are smart like that, right, that a nonfiction, we know fiction means fake, right? So if it is nonfiction, that means it is not fake. What is something that's not fake? It is real, right? So this is a real text, right? It is based on real things. It is based on facts, right? This is a nonfiction text is a real text based on facts. Okay, so it is based on things that happened in real life. It is based on things that have happened for real, describing real things, giving us the cause and effect of like something real that has occurred, telling us about a real person. So nonfiction texts are real. How can we identify a nonfiction text? Usually, not all the time because nothing is 100% guaranteed, but usually compared to fiction text, nonfiction text paragraphs are typically a little bit longer, okay? So we do not see like how we see a lot. Oh, I got a piece of hair on my thumb. Okay, how we see a lot, I'm sorry, y'all. But how we see a lot in fiction text where we have like those short paragraphs that really are talking about our dialogue, or maybe a new character has walked into our text, right? We do not see those things in nonfiction text where we have such short, like single sentence paragraphs as much. Now, that's not to say that it won't happen in nonfiction, but it's just not as common as it is in fiction. And that's why I want you guys to take these things with a grain of salt, and I want you to try to put the whole picture together. Because if I see a paragraph that's only a sentence and I say, oh, this is fiction because there's a sentence paragraph, like that's not it. That is not how we approach this. We have to look at the whole picture of the text and try to put together what it is based on everything that we see, not just one thing, okay? But nonfiction text does typically have longer paragraphs. Nonfiction text also has text features. Our nonfiction text features, I'm talking about headings, I'm talking about diagrams, I'm talking about charts. You get a chart, you get a caption, you get a photograph. I'm sorry, I'm not Oprah up in here, but you guys get the picture, right? We notice in nonfiction text that there are a plethora of different types of text features that we will see. Usually in a fiction text, we only see like maybe an illustration. Sometimes we might see a photograph that connects with the story. But we typically don't see a ton of text features inside of fiction text, where nonfiction text features are a little more common. And we see there are just way more nonfiction text features that can add to and help us to better understand whatever the nonfiction text is talking about, okay? We also will see that our nonfiction text, like we've already said, is based off of real life facts and verifiable information. So this is not just something that is made up, but it is something that comes out of real life. These are facts. These are things that I can look up and verify. I can confirm those things myself because this is real. So what do I need to think about? Once I've identified a text as nonfiction, what do I need to think about as I am reading? Well, let's talk about it, y'all. So when I am reading a nonfiction text, I always, period, hold on. When I am reading a text, period, I am always thinking about the main idea. I'm always thinking about what the text is mostly about. Whether I'm reading a poem, whether I'm reading fiction, nonfiction, or a drama, it don't matter, bruh. When I am reading, I'm always thinking about the main idea. What is the text mostly about, right? Now, when we read fiction, we're always thinking, who is the character? What is happening? Connecting our character to the plot, right? That is not what we're going to do. We're not thinking about that when we're reading nonfiction. When we're reading nonfiction, we are actually going to think, what is the topic plus the author's point? Okay, so if I'm reading a book about dragons, right? And I say, oh, what's the main idea? The main idea is dragons. Does that tell you anything about the text? No, it don't. It don't tell me anything about the text. But if I say the main idea of the text is about dragons and how they use their ecosystem to survive. Now you have a little more information that can help you to understand what the text is about if I'm talking to you about the main idea. Or if I say, oh, this book is about dolphins. Dolphins just tells me the topic of it. But I could say the author is describing how dolphins are effective communicators. They communicate really well. They're very smart animals. They even do that. Woo, woo. Oh, that's not a dolphin. I'm gonna insert a dolphin sound. But they do that little thing where they are talking, where they are communicating with one another. So dolphins is the topic. Are effective communicators is the author's point. You get me? You with me? I hope so. So we just kind of talked about it, right? The topic is the subject of the text. It is the who or what the text is about. Okay, so that is what our topic is. It's just dolphins. Dolphins is the topic. When we're talking about the topic, it's just like one or two, maybe 3 words. It's not very long. It's just who or what the text is about. So then we can start to think about our author's point. The author's point is literally just what the author is saying about the topic. That's our author's point. It's what the author is saying about the topic, okay? So when we think about the topic, dolphins, what is the author saying about dolphins? They're effective communicators. That's the author's point. And then to back up that point, because we can't just say stuff. Don't nobody care if you just say something, but you don't have evidence, you don't have proof to back that thing up. So our reasons and evidence is how the author proves what it is that they are trying to say, okay? So let's go ahead and look at a nonfiction text and see what we notice about this text. What are some things that we see that help us to know and to understand that this text is nonfiction? Hey guys, so we see this text here. It is called Antibiotics, a historic medical advancement. That title already is telling me factual, right? When we look at our title, and that's the first thing that we look at, we notice what the title is already hinting at. And this kind of feels like it's going to describe to me the medical advancement that antibiotics were. When I also continue to scan through this text, I see here right there where it says life before penicillin, right? This is a nonfiction text feature called a heading. So we see this heading here, seeing that nonfiction text feature is giving me that, my light bulb is going off. Okay, this is probably nonfiction. I'm also seeing like this paragraph 1 is like a larger paragraph. I don't see any paragraphs that are like single sentences. I don't even see a lot of like quotation marks that are showing me dialogue. So again, all of these things are hinting towards nonfiction. I do see this name inside of a text. I know names often hint at characters. But when I look at this name, one thing that I notice when I read this section, or not reading the whole text, right? We're just skimming through, but the name popped out at me. And it says it was made by a scientist named Alexander Fleming, right? So this is giving me, first of all, it's giving me a first and a last name, which I know typically in nonfiction text, when they are talking about real people, they give us the first and the last name so we can know who these people are, right? So all of these things that I'm noticing is kind of hinting to me that this is going to be a nonfiction text. That tells me I'm going to have to focus on my main idea. So my topic, my author's point, and then thinking about the reasons and evidence that the author uses to prove that point. Y'all, I hope this was helpful. I hope that you are a pro now at identifying fiction and nonfiction text fairly quickly, doing it with ease, so that way you can know what you need to think about. You can situate your brain for reading, and your brain does not have to work so hard once you are answering questions about a text. When I start to already formulate ideas about these things, my brain is not tripping out when I am answering questions, because I have already started to think about them. I already have ideas inside of my head that correlate with the things I know I'm going to have questions about. Y'all, hope this was helpful. As always, if you have any questions, you can leave them down below. I love you, and I hope to see you soon.